Hello again, friend. This is Gary from Walla Walla, Washington. I want to share a little with you about my life, my story, where I was born, and some of my health challenges. I was born in Roseburg, Oregon. We lived in Sutherland, Oregon at the time. When I had just turned 3 years old, my dad was killed. He was riding a moped, little motorcycle to work, and he was hit by a car and killed. When I was 4 years old, just after I turned 4, I believe, we moved to the Walla Walla Valley, the town of College Place in the Walla Walla Valley. And after a year or two, we moved out to between College Place and Melton Freewater, Oregon. And when I was a little older than that, I don't know exactly, our basement flooded. I was the youngest of 6 children, and I'll probably go into a little more detail on that later, but our basement flooded, and my bedroom was in the basement. So I was, there was most likely some mold issues that we probably didn't know about, but basements are generally prone to mold anyway, and then when there's flooding, it increases the likelihood. So as a child, my health wasn't good. I remember having nightmares, running around the basement, the recreation room in the basement, running around in my sleep saying, I can't get my kite up. I had a dream that I was trying to get a kite up, and it was in a room about that size, and there were swing sets in there, and there just wasn't enough room to get my kite up, and it was very frustrating. But looking back, I think it was one of the symptoms of the health problems I was having. I was very low energy when I was in grade school. We played soccer almost every recess, otherwise known as football, but in America we call it soccer. I didn't go up in the front because I just didn't have the energy. I couldn't keep running around that way. So I would hang back. I was sort of a goalie. I would stay on the back of the field, and if the ball got back to me, I could usually get it back up to the front. But meanwhile, I didn't have to exert myself very much. Our diet was very high in sugar, all kinds of sugars, desserts, lots of sweet things, and also dairy. And according to one health authority that I am familiar with, I would have been better off eating meat than that kind of a diet. But I was constantly stuffed up. My sinuses were stuffed up year-round. Didn't matter what time of year, it was as if I had a cold. I couldn't breathe through my nose. I was a mouth breather. As a 18-year-old, I remember working in the college bindery in College Place, Washington, and my job was pretty easy. I was standing doing foil stamping, so I was stamping books with foil to make the gold lettering or the silver lettering on the books, and not a difficult job at all. But I had such low energy that when break time came, I would lay down and try to sleep. I'd lay down on a table and try to sleep, and I could usually get 5 minutes of sleep during a 10-minute break. Meanwhile, my friends were talking they were standing around talking. I would have been nice to join them, but I was just too tired. And so I was about 21, I think, when I started eating a plant-based diet and not eating dairy. And I remember driving down the road in Walla Walla and realizing with a lot of surprise that I could breathe through my nose. I had never been able to previous to that. So, but avoiding dairy wasn't the cure for me. So, looking back, I had a lot of symptoms of mold sickness I remember when I was 19, every morning I would try to spend about an hour reading. And I was in Japan, I was teaching English. I would go into the English school early and go down in the basement and try to spend some time reading. And I had such a hard time staying awake. I'm finding, as I've learned more about mold sickness, that's one of the symptoms is mold can make a person tired and sleepy. And so mold sickness had me set up for other health problems. When I was 21, I believe, 21 or 22, I went to Long Island and volunteered at a organization there. And my bedroom was in the basement of an old mansion on Long Island. And I also worked in the basement. And I really wasn't feeling good there. And I spent quite a bit of time out hiking around in the woods. Long Island, New York has a lot of woods, forests there. But I really wasn't feeling good there. I remember going into downtown New York to an allergist because I thought maybe I was having problems with mold. And sure enough, I was having problems with mold. So I moved upstairs, moved out of the basement, moved upstairs, but that didn't really change much, didn't really improve much. Make sure I have enough time here. I'm on break. After lunch we have 15 minutes to take a walk if we want to, and if we do, we get paid for it. It's part of the wellness program. I really appreciate that. So I really wasn't feeling good in Long Island, and I went back home to Milton Freewater, Oregon, which is in the Walla Walla Valley, early because I just I was feeling so bad. My mother recommended a doctor that I could go to, and so I went to that doctor, Dr. John Potts, who used to practice in the Walla Walla Valley. And he was very progressive. Very few doctors at the time knew of, this was 1980, 82, I believe. Very few doctors knew about Candida, but I believe he tested me for Candida and thought I had it and gave me Nystatin to take. And I took Nystatin, but it didn't really, I couldn't tell any benefit. Looking back years later, I'm almost 100% sure that when I was on Long Island, I got Lyme disease. Lyme is very, at the time, Lyme was mostly on the East Coast and mostly right around that area. I believe I was only about 60 or 70 miles from Lyme, Connecticut, which is where Lyme disease was first discovered in the United States. And it was discovered in the late 70s, late 1970s. So I was there in about 1982. So I was on Long Island, very close to Lyme, Connecticut, less than 5 years after Lyme disease was discovered. And at the time, doctors on the West Coast didn't know about. I mean, probably very few doctors on the West Coast knew about Lyme disease, and so I wasn't diagnosed until years later, and I took a blood test, and it showed that I have Lyme. I could go maybe in another video. Maybe I'll go into more detail on that. Anyway, to summarize, since I'm just about out of time, health has been a major factor in my life. Low energy has been very prominent. I remember one day in 1992, I remember feeling good one day. And it sounds funny for me to say that probably, but I felt good so rarely that I remember that day. And I couldn't figure out what I had done the day before or the days before to feel good. But I'm just about out of time, so I'll have to come back. So until I see you again, I wish you all the best. Bye-bye.